The doctor said the mass near my pancreas might give me 3 days. My wife squeezed my hand, leaned in close enough that her perfume cut through the hospital disinfectant, and smiled. Finally, she whispered, 3 more days, then it's all mine. My stepdaughter didn't even look up from the hallway before saying, I'm taking his car. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stared at the ceiling tiles above my bed and listened to my own heartbeat pounding behind my ears. It was 4:17 on a Tuesday afternoon at Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Outside my door, wheels squeaked across the floor. A television played too loud somewhere down the hall. A nurse laughed at something near the station, and for one cruel second, the whole world sounded painfully normal. Inside my room, my entire life had just quietly split open. Before we go further, if you believe people show their true colors the moment they think you can't hear them, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Then hit subscribe to Aftermath Tales, because what happens next in this story will absolutely stay with you. A few minutes earlier, Dr. Daniel Price had stood at the foot of my bed holding a tablet against his chest. The CT shows a mass near your pancreas, he said. There's also a serious infection. We need a biopsy before we know anything for certain. My wife Vanessa didn't ask if it could be treated. She asked, are you saying he could die this week? The doctor paused the way doctors pause when they're deciding how much truth a person can survive hearing. If the infection spreads quickly, his condition could decline within days. 3 days, she asked. I can't give you an exact number, he said. But 3 days was what she heard, and 3 days was exactly what she wanted. After he left, she sat beside me and performed grief for about 30 seconds. She smoothed my blanket. She touched my forehead. Then she looked at my closed eyes, decided the medication had carried me somewhere far away, and that's when she whispered it. Chloe's comment about my car came seconds later. Not just any car, a 1972 Corvette Stingray, dark blue, rebuilt engine, cream leather seats. My first wife Margaret and I had restored that car together over years, arguing over paint samples, eating takeout on overturned buckets in the garage. She'd been gone 11 years by then, but I still had a photo of her behind that wheel, grinning with grease smudged on her cheek. Chloe knew exactly what that car meant. It apparently made no difference at all. Vanessa stood up. We should let him rest, she said, and the two of them stepped into the hallway. The door didn't close all the way. I'm serious about the Corvette, Chloe said. You can have the house, Vanessa answered. It will be yours soon. We'll need a realtor, not immediately, that would look bad. What about the furniture? Most of it goes, especially that ugly leather couch. And the funeral, keep it small. There's no reason to spend a fortune. Their footsteps faded down the hall, and I lay there staring at my own hand, still warm from where my wife had been holding it seconds earlier. That was the part I couldn't understand. How could her hand still feel warm when the person attached to it had gone that cold? I was 68 years old. I built my landscaping company from a used pickup truck and $6,000 borrowed dollars I could barely repay. By the time I stepped back, we maintained properties across all of Central Ohio. I wasn't wealthy in some flashy way, but I'd done well, and I still controlled most of the company. Vanessa knew all of that before she married me. We met at a library fundraiser 4 years after Margaret passed. She remembered names, laughed at my old stories, told me she admired men who built things with their own hands. What I never admitted to anyone was just how lonely I'd become before her, sitting in my truck at the end of my own driveway because I couldn't stand walking into a silent house. I saw warning signs, of course, most people do. We just rename them because the truth is inconvenient. She asked about my beneficiaries. She suggested selling rental properties she hadn't earned a cent of. She disliked the bonuses I gave long-time employees. Chloe called me dad only when she needed rent money, then vanished for weeks. Lying in that hospital bed, I finally understood exactly whose future Vanessa had been planning for. Around 7 that evening, an old friend named Miguel Alvarez appeared in my doorway in his work jacket and muddy boots. You look terrible, he said. That's why you keep me around, I answered. Miguel had worked beside me for almost 30 years, though calling him just my gardener never felt right. He'd slept in a chair outside Margaret's hospital room the week she died, because he didn't think I should be alone. He looked at my face now and set his coffee down. What happened? He asked. Close the door, I said. Then I told him everything, the doctor's words and what I'd overheard in the hallway. He sat quietly, turning his cap in his hands. Finally, he said, she thinks you're already gone. What exactly did the doctor say? Not what she heard. What did he actually say? I repeated it carefully. A suspicious mass. A serious infection. No confirmed diagnosis yet. Miguel leaned forward. My brother had something like this 6 years ago. They thought it was cancer until a specialist actually looked closer. You think that's what this is? I think you don't surrender your life before they finish the tests, he said. I gripped his wrist. Help me, and you'll never work another day in your life. He looked almost offended. I'll help. Because you're my friend. We can argue about money later. Then he pulled out his phone. I know the specialist who treated my brother. She's at Cleveland Clinic now. That call changed everything. A nurse brought me a records release form, and when Vanessa walked back in and asked what it was for, I told her, a second opinion. Her concerned expression flickered for just a second, and underneath it, something harder showed through, before the mask slid back into place. Why put yourself through all that? She asked. I want another doctor to look at the scans, I said. My hand shook as I signed it, partly from weakness, partly from the knowledge that this was the first real decision I'd made in years, against my wife's wishes. The next morning she arrived with coffee and a folder of what she called routine paperwork, durable power of attorney, broad financial access, authorization to speak for me with my company. I let the papers rest untouched on my blanket. I'll have my attorney review these, I said. Her smile stiffened. Eleanor isn't necessary, she said. Eleanor isn't an outsider, I answered. She's handled my affairs for 20 years. That afternoon, Dr. Rebecca Sloan called from Cleveland after reviewing my scans. There's an abnormal area, she said. But I don't agree the imaging alone supports a terminal diagnosis. This could be an infected pseudocyst. I might not have cancer, I said. You might not, she answered, but we need tissue results immediately. The procedure happened that same evening. Vanessa was furious, disguised as fear. You're making yourself suffer for nothing, she said. What if the answer doesn't change anything, I asked. Then at least it'll be my answer, I told her. 2 days later, Dr. Price sat beside my bed while Vanessa was home showering. The biopsy found no cancer cells, he said. An infected pseudocyst, severe, dangerous, but treatable. You are not terminal, Walter. I covered my face with both hands, relief crashing over me so hard it actually hurt. Then I thought about Vanessa's smile, Chloe's plans for my car, that folder of papers, and I made a decision. Let them plan the funeral, I told Miguel. I want to hear exactly what they say when they think I'll never answer back. Over the following days, my attorney Eleanor discovered Vanessa had already been quietly requesting bank information about what happens after a spouse dies, asking my insurance carrier, who'd take over my accounts, requesting company valuation reports from my accountant. She hadn't gotten anything yet, Miguel told me, because Eleanor had closed every door before it opened. One morning I overheard Vanessa and Chloe in the dining room discussing repainting the house to sell it faster, and Chloe casually mentioning she already had a buyer lined up for my Corvette. I quietly climbed back up my own staircase like a stranger in my own home. We moved fast after that. Physicians documented I was fully competent. Every old financial authorization Vanessa had pushed for was revoked. Eleanor recommended moving the company into an irrevocable trust before the marriage completely fell apart. And hearing the word divorce out loud for the first time hit harder than I expected. But by then, I'd already decided. On Sunday morning, Vanessa hosted what she called my farewell gathering. Cars lined both sides of the street. White lilies covered the table. A slideshow played our 4 years together, while somehow forgetting Margaret and 40 years of my life ever existed. Chloe showed up late in black, though I was still very much alive, and I heard her whisper to her boyfriend in the garage, "That car is basically mine now." Around 1:30, Vanessa tapped her glass for attention and stood beside our wedding photo. Walter wanted the people he loves around him, she said, a story I had never once told her. He always wanted me to remain here, in the home we built together, and he trusted Chloe to help protect his legacy. I pushed myself out of my chair with my cane, and the room went silent. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "Before anyone says goodbye, I need you to hear what I heard." Miguel pressed play on a small speaker. My wife's own voice filled the room. Finally, 3 more days. Then it's all mine. Then Chloe's voice. "I'm taking his car." Then more. The realtor, the furniture, how little they intended to spend on my funeral. Nobody moved. "This is disgusting," Vanessa finally said. "You recorded private conversations." "I recorded conversations I was part of," I answered. "You were drugged. You were confused," she snapped. "2 physicians confirmed he was fully competent," Eleanor said calmly from across the room. Vanessa turned to my foreman Calvin, hoping for backup, and he simply asked, "Then why did you request the company valuation last Wednesday?" Nobody spoke up for her. Not one person in that crowded living room. "You're not even my real father," Chloe said, her voice cracking. That sentence should have made me angry. Instead, it just made me tired. No, I said quietly, but I tried very hard to be one. I told them everything then. The biopsy, the infection, the fact that I was weak but very much alive. Vanessa's face went white. You're not dying, Chloe said. And it wasn't relief crossing her face. It was pure panic. The company won't pass to Vanessa, I said. Most of it is going to the employees who built it beside me, Miguel included. He'd earned that stake years ago. And the Corvette will be auctioned, with every dollar funding trade school, scholarships for young workers who can't afford tuition, carrying Margaret's name. Chloe's mouth opened and closed with nothing left to say. Vanessa looked around that silent room one last time, hoping someone would defend her, and nobody did. She grabbed her purse and walked out, Chloe trailing behind her, and the front door slammed hard enough to rattle the wedding photo off the wall. Miguel glanced at it and said, "Loose hinge," and for the first time all afternoon, the whole room actually laughed. The divorce took 5 months and wasn't clean or satisfying. Real life rarely wraps up that easily. Vanessa hired lawyers, questioned my mental competency, told mutual friends I'd become paranoid. I sat through evaluation after evaluation, answering the same questions again and again, until every doctor confirmed exactly what I already knew, that I understood precisely what I was doing. At our final meeting, she asked me one question before signing. "Did you ever love me?" "I loved the person I believed you were," I told her. She lowered her eyes, and we signed. Chloe reached out 2 months later, no real apology, just an explanation about being pressured. I told her my door wasn't permanently closed, but there would be no car, no checks, and no rewards for pretending we'd ever had a real relationship. She never wrote back. Maybe she will someday. Maybe she won't. Miguel retired that spring and was back training new hires within 3 weeks, because retirement never suited a man like him. The Corvette sold at auction for more than I ever expected, funding a scholarship program in Margaret's name for veterans and young workers learning skilled trades. By May, the infection was completely gone. I tired more easily than before. My knee ached when it rained, but I put Margaret's photographs back where they belonged and kept full control of my own life. My own accounts, my own decisions, for the first time in years. One afternoon, Miguel and I watched a group of young apprentices plant maple trees along the fence line. 3 days turned into a pretty busy year, he said, nudging my shoulder. It did, I told him, watching those thin young trees stand upright in the spring wind. Getting older doesn't mean you have to accept disrespect just because you're afraid of being alone. Sometimes the hardest boundary you'll ever set is the one that finally saves what's left of your own life. If you've ever had to protect your own dignity later than you should have, you are not alone, and we'd love to hear what that experience taught you. Drop your story in the comments, share this with someone who needs to hear it today, and make sure you're subscribed to Aftermath Tales, because we've got so many more stories exactly like this one waiting for you.